Barbershop conversation, guys. Feel free, hit the subscribe button. So, hmm, we done had a crazy week this week. From a week ago Sunday, from the Andre Ward to Floyd Mayweather, and now Tyson Fury. We've gotten both ends of the spectrum as it relates to um, trust and distrust, and um, as it relates to the culture. And I want to talk about something that's really, really important, and we need to fully grasp this for real. You know the term why they say black people can't swim. They say that nigga don't know how to swim. I'm gonna tell you where it came from. It came from the western shores of Africa, and where the slave trade began, Ghana, and most notable, everyone goes to Ghana and they go visit the Cape Coast, and um, they got those portals and the castles that when the doors opened, it opened up to the coast, and black people was put on the ship and head over to the Western Hemisphere. And obviously, we know what became of that when the transatlantic slave trade began, and millions. They don't know the true numbers, but it varies from 10 million to 20 million to 30 million, even upwards of 40 million people um, that was brought over into slavery. And it's two pronged. What happened was they separated the men from the women, right? I'm gonna just give you snapshot synopsis. They separated the men from the women, and when they opened up these dungeon doors or these portals, what black people saw was the shore, right? And when future slaves saw the water, they tried to fight against going to the ships and going to the water. So black people of uh, had a fear of water because it reminded them of separation. It reminded them of of leaving their country behind, leaving their family behind, and once they opened up them dungeon doors, through the course of time, they realized that the people that left were not coming back, right? And because they didn't know what the people that came before them, they never looking at shores reminded them of basically hell on earth, right? Unbeknownst to them, they were coming over to the Americas to be to become slaves. And moreover than that, when when the transatlantic slave trade was happening and the slaves were dying on the ships because they couldn't take the journey, unsanitary. We all know about the unsanitary ships and stuff like that. They were chained, they were whipped, they were bleeding, they were defecating. And when they died, they threw them over. But the unruly ones, like the quote unquote Nat Turner slaves, right? What they did was they threw them off the ship and they said, that nigga don't know how to swim. And that's where the term came from. And once we understand the meaning of that term, we will understand that we must align ourselves with each other. We must be a conglomerate of force. We must be a conglomerate of power. We must learn to trust one another, because the flip side of that is white people betraying us, um, tricking us, killing us, separating us from our family, and putting us in positions where we can no longer be successful, but basically be a slave, or another synonym is an indentured servant. You understand what I'm saying? And I think it's just real, real critical I'm going deeper than the topic at hand as it relates to Tyson Fury getting a deal and making a deal with his white contemporaries, um, uh, tricking Deontay Wilder, tricking Team Wilder. When they came to the table with the level of trust and the level of decency, and then you have Floyd Mayweather, who's using his power, using his influence to invoke humor on something that's serious, to invoke pride when when there's something more serious than that. And I think it's two prongs. It's so many different levels to this, but you either going to be an asset or a liability, right? Um, I think at the end of the day, if 9 people are doing it one way, if you don't agree, I think you should just be quiet. You understand what I'm saying? I think it's just so essential that we get out of each other's way. I think it's just so critical that we learn to trust one another and bet on one another. You know, um, this has been this has been an exceeding tough. Like I use the Andre Ward tweet as the example. He shouldn't have said anything. No doubt he questioned the man's character. No doubt he was attempting to take money out of Deontay Wilder's pocket by telling Tyson Fury he should move on and fight Anthony Joshua. That's taking money out the man's pocket. Anthony Joshua is the big payday. You know, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua is a big payday. Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua is the biggest payday. And I think it's just essential how we get in each other's way for no reason. There has to be a point where we have to say, you will not, man, there has to be a point where we say our culture is more valuable than any dollar that we can possibly make. And I think when you're a mature adult, I don't know when it happens for you, but it happened for me like in my mid 30s where my eyes began to open up and I got more conscientious and I thirsted for more and more and more and more knowledge. But this week has taught me a lot about how people get comfortable and realize green supersedes character, green supersedes culture, green supersedes integrity. That tweet by Andre Ward I thought was not cool. I think Floyd getting in the way of something that can lead to something greater, I think is very prideful. I think it's disingenuous. I think it's not loyal. Um, Tyson Fury siding with his white contemporaries for the sake of green. I think it's his integrity when, as I said before, Al Heyman and Deontay Wilder brought him back from his abyss, from his demons. His wife was very grateful and very thankful. Um, Kind woman, beautiful woman. And I think it's time that we put the value back in our culture. I think it's time we put the value back in our personal integrity. And I think it's time that um, we fully understand that they never wanted us to swim in America. They never wanted us to be buoyant. They believed that we would drown. And and in some cases, how we're drowning is we're drowning each other. It's not the colonizers throwing us off. It's us holding each other's head down under the water, you know, um, jealous of the next man because he's picking more cotton. And that's an analogy for life in America today. You know, jealous of the house Negro because you're in charge of washing dishes and the other one's in charge of cooking. You know, at the end of the day, it all leads to empowering white supremacy. It all leads to furthering your inferiority to white supremacy. And I truly believe, I truly believe that once we understand the true meaning of niggas don't know how to swim, we'll fully grasp the reality and the gravity of these moments, the importance of these moments. You know, I attempt not to put myself before the culture. I attempt not to. Uh, I want to be the aid. I want to help Noah build his ark. You know, um, sometimes you just got to build your ark and say, "I'm building an ark. Who wants to come?" And if they don't believe you, you just go set sail. You know, and I, every moment that we're here on earth is crucial, it's critical, it's important. And when our leaders quote unquote forsake us, you know, for the sake of personal satisfaction, uh, Gucci is like, it's a boycott, but it's symbolism. It's it for this. It's not the biggest boycott that we can do, but but defeating this could potentially galvanize a greater spirit. It could make 7% of Black America. It can grow to 9% of Black America believing in Black America. And then the next thing it goes. So it's a journey. You know, the Bible isn't just Genesis. You know, it's so many more books. What's it, 60? I don't know how many books there are in the Bible. 66? I don't know. You guys correct. I don't put it in the comment section. I have no idea. But I think when we understand, we fully grasp and understand when they say that nigga can't swim, it's a synonym for that nigga can't read. That nigga's not smart. That nigga is dumb. That nigga can't make any money. That nigga is a criminal. That nigga is no good. That nigga is always angry. All of us has been called all of these things. And you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're hated by Black and loved by white. I've told you guys before, in order to be a great man in this country, you must first be a great Black man if you're a Black man, you know? And it holds true for every minority race. You know, Steve Harvey Monique, he says, "We Black, we can't be out here acting like this." What do you mean by that? We're not in a money game. Monique corrected him and said, we're in an integrity game. And it takes a great deal of integrity. It takes a great deal of fortitude to wake up and say, you know what? Sing that James Brown song, "I'm Black and I'm Proud." It takes a great deal of fortitude. It takes a great deal of fortitude for Floyd Mayweather to say, "I'm Black and I'm proud and I'm a billionaire." Knowing he doesn't have to work ever again, knowing he doesn't have to do anything Black related. He can go off and buy an island on his jet planes and do what he has to do what he needs to do, and live happily ever after, per se. But to go against the culture for the sake of going against the culture, he's the only. See, Here's the catch. When you're the only one doing something, you got to ask yourself, is it insanity or is it greatness? And right now, it's insanity. It's not that Gucci is the most important boycott in the world. It's a unified spirit. You understand? It's a unified front to say we're not tolerating this no more, and it can lead to greener pastures. So it's like everything we do in life. It's growth. Simple analogy. You go from your freshman year in high school or college to your senior year in high school or college. You understand? It's growth. And what we need as a culture is growth. What we need is trust. What we need is belief, and it takes time. The Montgomery Boys bus boycott wasn't built in a day. It took time, it took trust. Malcolm X woke up one day and said, you know what? If I eliminate religion, MLK and I can be two strong black men leading the culture to where it needs to be. And what happened? They were assassinated. They, quote unquote, they assassinated the nice Negro and they assassinated the angry Negro. And if you're white and you align yourself with them and you're in a position of power, they're going to assassinate you. You know, Abraham Lincoln promised us 40 acres and a mule. Well, 40 acres. And guess what? He was assassinated. So at the end of the day, ask yourself, are you for the culture? Or are you against the culture? It's real simple. None of us are perfect. Okay? I must interject. None of us are perfect. We are all walking contradictions. All right? But when the culture says stand firm, we stand firm. In elementary school, when your line leader stopped, you stopped. And right now, the line leader is advocates advocating that we boycott Gucci. And for many of us, it has no effect. For some of us, it has a little effect. And for the minimum, it has great effect. Those multimillionaires at the top of the food chain, it affects them greatly. Those in middle class America, it affects us some. And, our impoverished Americans, it doesn't affect us at all. But for a man like Floyd Mayweather who has everything, all he got to do is wear Louis Vuitton. You know what I mean? For him just to throw it in our face, it's sad. It's sad. And I hear like people like Brother Polite protecting them and someone else. It's not about protecting, it's about educating. Because they always say if you're if you're if you're explaining, you're losing. You know? Why put on something and explain it? It makes no sense. You're not a leader if no one's following. And this video is out of love, man. I'm not pointing fingers because as I point one, three are pointing back at me. But I know there comes a time and a place where we must lay silent or fight with. And as it relates to the NFL, haven't watched a game in 2 years, for the most part, Colin Kaepernick got 60 million. It worked. And for those of you complaining, the man donated $1 million when he was unemployed. So I don't want to hear nothing about this and that. It worked, and he'll have a job. You know, the boycott worked. So I just say this, you know, I think Andre Ward should have been quiet about his tweet. I think um, Floyd Mayweather should just stay silent and get out the way and let people, if people are going to boycott, let them boycott. Even if you wear Gucci, you don't have to be loud and proud about it. That's intentional. That's being malicious, And as it relates to Tyson Fury, Vince sent me this quote today, but I say this quote a lot. If there's 100, this is a Muhammad Ali quote. If there's 100 snakes in the room, and you don't know which one are venomous, and you got 10 good snakes, you have to assume that all 100 snakes are bad. And that's what I say to Team Wilder. You have to assume that all those snakes are bad. I know his heart. I've been around Deontay Wilder. He has great character. He's a kind man. He's a fair man. He's a firm man as well. And not only did Tyson Fury betray Deontay Wilder, in a certain space, he betrayed the boxing public. In terms of personal gain, he made the right decision. So, for his family, he made the right decision. Integrity, it was a lack of integrity on his part. But at the end of the day, he has every right to protect his last name. You know, I would assume that Deontay Wilder was under the pretense, I do you a solid, you make good on your time. You make good on your solid. He chose not to. And like I said, if there's 100 white snakes in the room and they say 10 are good, you going to go search for the 10, or you going to assume all of them are bad? So you have an option. You either leave or you kill them all. And that's just the truth, man. Barbershop Conversations, man. Feel free to hit the subscribe button, and don't ever forget, as long as you live on this earth, don't ever forget, as long as you are on this earth, why they say niggas don't know how to swim. All right? They threw you off the ship. All right? They threw you off the ship, and they said that nigga don't know how to swim. And just think of the fear and all those native Africans. Think about the fear and all those native Africans every time they saw water, every time they saw a seashore. You know? And now when you get to America, they say you can't swim by. Oh, that nigga can't read. That nigga can't write. That nigga is not smart. That nigga's gonna fail out of high school. That nigga's gonna go to jail. That nigga's gonna get pregnant. That nigga's never gonna get married. That nigga has 5 kids and never been married by 5 different women. That's how they say it now. Barbershop Conversations. Feel free to hit the subscribe button. And the next time a motherfucker attempts to think that you can't swim, I challenge you to be more Malcolm X than Martin Luther King. I'll say that. Barbershop Conversations. Feel free to hit the subscribe button. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.